Leo Sterling was the best hacker on the planet. Period. He was so good, the CIA kept a file on him 3 inches thick just out of professional respect. Publicly, however, he was the director of engineering at Apex Driving. With his own 2 hands, he had developed a fully autonomous driving system called Prometheus. You know Tesla's autopilot? Prometheus was 50 years ahead of it. The moment it hit the market, every major auto manufacturer was tripping over themselves to partner with Apex Drive, practically throwing money at the company. In just 3 years, Apex had become a Fortune 500 powerhouse. And it was all thanks to Leo. One day, the CEO had to go abroad for an extended medical treatment. Before leaving, he decided to appoint a new vice president to manage the company in his absence. This new VP was a petty, spiteful creature. And just because Leo Sterling didn't applaud during her welcome ceremony, she fired him in front of the entire department. She thought she was just canning some random engineer. No big deal. What she didn't know was that her pink slip was a blade aimed directly at the company's jugular. The very next day, all hell broke loose. Techstar 1, Bayview City, Apex Driving. Headquarters. Inside the chairman's office. I have to leave the country for medical reasons. I'm leaving the company in your hands for now, said the CEO, Victor Vance. The new VP, Roxanne Vance, wrapped her arm around his, her voice a saccharine purr. Don't you worry about a thing, Godfather. You just go get better. The company will be fine with me here, she assured him. After all, I have an MBA from MIT Sloan School of Management. Victor nodded, pleased, but then his expression turned serious. Just one thing, there's someone here you don't mess with. Roxanne's smile tightened. Who? His name is Leo Sterling. He's brilliant, a force of nature. Whatever he does in this company, you don't interfere. Understood. Here's his personnel file. Take a good look at it later. Victor pulled a thick folder from his desk drawer and pushed it into her hands. He then grabbed his carry-on suitcase and headed for the door in a hurry. That's everything. I've got a flight to catch. Let me walk you out, Godfather, Roxanne said, following him. No need. You should get familiar with the company. And remember, Victor stressed one last time. Do not provoke Leo Sterling. Get on his good side. The moment Victor was gone, Roxanne's face transformed. TCH. He's just some damn employee, she sneered. Why did he have to repeat himself? Like I'm an idiot. A man's voice came through the speaker. You know it. Hey, I've been learning to code lately, and I think I'm getting scary good. Can you ask around and see if any companies are hiring programmers? A sly grin spread across Roxanne's face. Why don't you come work for me? Isn't that risky? If that old fossil finds out we're a thing, we're screwed, aren't we? Roxanne just laughed. A short while later, Roxanne's boy toy, Chad Miller, arrived. Under immense pressure from Roxanne, the HR department had no choice but to fast-track his onboarding. The two of them then strode into the engineering department. She started by bragging about her time at MIT, dropping names of famous professors and tech moguls she'd supposedly met and taken photos with. She went on about how everything in America was better, more efficient, and how chaotic and backward domestic companies were. Her new employees felt sick to their stomachs. Had this woman knelt so long she'd forgotten how to stand? Then she claimed the President of the United States had once pursued her, offering her half the country in exchange for her love. But she had refused, she said, because her heart belonged to serving her country. The engineers were speechless at the sheer absurdity of her lies. Finally, she gave a grand introduction for Chad Miller, painting him as some kind of legendary tech guru. Then she made everyone give him another 10-minute round of applause. People's hands were numb and their legs ached from standing. Still, Roxanne gave no sign of letting them stop. Why aren't you clapping? Suddenly, Roxanne spotted him. At a desk against the far wall, one employee hadn't stood up. He wasn't She stormed over to his desk, furious. Excuse me? Why should I be clapping? Leo Sterling asked without looking up, his fingers still flying across the keyboard. Roxanne let out a humorless laugh, astounded by his arrogance. She tapped her long nails on his desk, her voice dripping with condescension. Hello, maybe you could stop typing for 1 second. Do you have any idea who I am? Leo's brow furrowed. He could see she was just looking for a fight. If you came over here to flaunt your new VP title, then please leave. I'm busy, and I don't have time for this. Roxanne's face twisted in fury. She slammed her hand on the desk. You're fired. Beside her, Chad Miller puffed out his chest and chimed in. You heard her. You're fired. Get out. What? Are you going to stick around for the free lunch? He shouted loud enough for the entire floor to hear. An unnerving silence fell over the room. Every engineer turned to look, and Leo Sterling finally stopped typing. My job classification is Tier 7 Principal Engineer. That's a higher grade than your little VP title. You think you can fire me? You don't have the authority. Roxanne scoffed, not believing a word of it. Who do you think you're fooling? You're just a developer. A rank higher than a VP? If you were that important, do you really think you'd be sitting at a desk out here? She yelled for the head of HR, ready for a public showdown. But the HR director's next words left her completely stunned. Ms. Vance, this is Leo Sterling, our director of engineering. His classification is Tier 7, which is one level above yours. According to company policy, the termination of any employee at the VP level or higher requires a full vote from the board of directors. You have no authority to unilaterally terminate his employment contract. Roxanne froze, mortified. As for Chad, his demeanor shifted in a heartbeat. 1 second, he was a smug bully. The next, he was bowing and scraping, offering Leo a cigarette with a greasy smile. Haha, well, my mistake. Didn't realize I was talking to the man himself. Big misunderstanding, Leo, my man. Smoke. Leo's response was ice cold. Get lost. Chad's smile vanished. Seeing the cold reception, Roxanne, after a moment of awkward shuffling, grabbed Chad and slunk away with her tail between her legs. The second they were gone, the department's private Slack channel, Apex Skunkworks, exploded. At Leo_Sterling Leo, you're the man. You put her in her place without even trying. In Leo's world, a VP is just a speed bump. Roxanne, thought I'd make a big power move. Ended up making a big fool of myself. She really knows how to pick her battles. Lol, Roxanne. Came to show them who's boss. Accidentally showed them my ass instead. Doge_meme. Leo typed a quick message. At channel, I'm heading out for the day. Ping me if anything's on fire. A cascade of replies followed instantly. Deputy Director, Architecture, Roger. Deputy Director, Systems, Roger. Deputy Director, Software, Roger. Deputy Director, Info SEC, Roger. The endless stream of Roger underscored the one simple truth of the engineering department. Leo Sterling was king. 2. Back in her new office, Roxanne was in a state of impotent rage. She'd grabbed a pair of scissors and was methodically shredding a bouquet of roses in a vase, petal by petal. The beautiful flowers were reduced to a mangled heap. But even that couldn't quell the humiliation she felt. She had wanted to make a grand entrance, to fire someone on her first day to establish dominance. Instead, she'd picked a fight with the one person she couldn't touch. Leo hadn't given her an inch of respect, and she had ended up embarrassing herself in front of everyone. It was as bad as taking a dump in the middle of the street. Chad, I am so pissed off right now, Roxanne hissed, glaring at him. Chad understood immediately. He silently knelt. As her eyes darted around the room, she noticed Leo's personnel file in the trash. She fished it out and started flipping through it. The further she read, the wider her eyes became. Name, Leo Sterling. Age, 27. Education, Bayview University, B.S. in Computer Science and Engineering. Years of service, 3. Job classification, Tier 7 titles. Director of Engineering plus Chief Architect plus Head of Autonomous Visual Systems plus Lead Programmer plus Head of Information Security plus Lead Front-End Developer plus Lead Back-End Developer. Compensation. Base salary of $1 million per month plus 10% of gross sales revenue. Marital status. Single. Contact. 977-759-745. 1, 2, 3, 4. What the hell? He holds 7 positions. Roxanne counted them off, her voice trembling with disbelief. What was truly terrifying was that every single one of them was a critical leadership role. But what made her jaw drop was his compensation package. First, a fixed salary of $1 million a month. That was $12 million a year, a figure that dwarfed nearly every executive in the country. Second, a 10% commission on gross sales revenue. Last year, the Prometheus system was installed in 20 million vehicles. The average licensing fee per unit was $1,000. Based on a 10% commission for every unit sold, Leo Sterling pocketed $100. That meant Leo's commission last year was $2 billion. Enough to buy a small aircraft carrier. Why the hell would that old fool Victor pay him that much? She seethed. And give him such a high-level position? He only has a bachelor's degree. He didn't even study abroad. Does he deserve this? Roxanne was consumed by a toxic cocktail of envy and indignation. She couldn't stand the idea of someone with less academic prestige earning more than her. It invalidated her entire worldview, her precious MIT degree. This guy has to go. Otherwise, the company is losing over $2 billion a year. Hearing this, Chad, sweating profusely from his efforts, eagerly chimed in. Exactly. He has to be fired. When I offered him a smoke earlier, he told me to get lost. The guy's a rebel. Can't have people like that around. Roxanne nodded. Chad, she asked suddenly, with your programming skills, do you think you could replace him? Chad puffed out his chest. Of course. Honey, let me tell you, my coding skills are reaching god-tier levels. I'm practically untouchable. You know Jester, the #1 hacker on the CIA's most wanted list. Roxanne's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. I've heard of him. Supposedly the most dangerous hacker in the world. That's me, Chad declared without a hint of shame. Roxanne rolled her eyes. Please, don't insult my intelligence. The only skill you have is in the bedroom. What else can you possibly do? She said, then her tone shifted back to business. Starting tomorrow, you'll be working in the engineering department. I want you to learn everything you can, as fast as you can. Chad gave her a thumbs up. You got it, babe. On it. 3. The next day, while Leo was out of the office, Roxanne strong-armed HR into transferring Chad to a core position in the engineering department, back-end development for the autonomous visual systems. She also had his desk placed right next to Leo's. Her plan was simple. Have Chad steal Leo's techniques while also spying on him, hoping to find some mistake she could use as ground for termination. The other engineers weren't stupid. They could immediately see the unprofessional connection between Chad and Roxanne. Many suspected they were sleeping together. Combined with Roxanne's obnoxious behavior from the day before and Chad's condescending attitude, nobody wanted anything to do with him. After Roxanne left, the entire department gave him the silent treatment. When Chad tried asking questions, his colleagues completely ignored him, acting as if he were invisible. By mid-afternoon, he hadn't even figured out how to access the development environment. He just sat at his computer, looking lost, alternating between scrolling on his phone and picking at his fingernails. Later that afternoon, a critical bug surfaced in the new project source code, grinding development to a halt. The team spent hours trying to solve it, but they were stumped. Finally, they messaged Leo in a private Slack channel, explaining the situation. Leo was traveling and couldn't get back to the office right away. So he pulled out his laptop, remotely accessed his workstation at Apex, and dove into the back-end code. 5 minutes later, he had found and fixed the bug. He then disconnected the remote session, leaving his computer unlocked. And that's when Chad made his move. He saw the screen on Leo's workstation glowing, displaying the project's source code. He slid into Leo's chair and began to study it. He didn't just study it. He started changing things, not just code, but core data values. Somehow, after fiddling with a bunch of parameters, the compiler didn't throw an error. He smugly concluded that his modifications were on par with Leo's own work. Leo, when did you get back? Huh? What are you doing here? Mike Sullivan, sitting at the adjacent desk, had his headphones on, deep in concentration. He thought he heard typing from Leo's station and assumed he'd returned. But when he turned, he saw Chad. And when he saw Chad's hands on the keyboard, actively changing code, a cold dread washed over him. This was bad. This was a catastrophe. What the hell are you doing? Stop. Get away from there. Mike ripped off his headphones and yanked the wiry Chad out of the chair and onto the floor. What's your problem, man? You want to fight? Chad scrambled to his feet, completely oblivious to the gravity of the situation. He struck a cheap Bruce Lee pose, bouncing on the balls of his feet. I'll have you know, I'm a 10th-degree black belt in Taekwondo. I'm legit. What, huh? Mike, a mountain of a man with biceps the size of baked hams, didn't say a word. He just threw one punch. Thwack! Chad flew backward and landed in a large potted plant, his glasses shattering on impact. The commotion drew the attention of the other engineers, who quickly gathered around. They saw Chad groaning in the planter and Mike standing over him like an angry giant, his fists clenched. What happened? Nice one, Mike. You okay, man? Your hand all right. Chad, even though you're the one on the floor, you should really ask yourself why this happened. It takes two to tango, you know. Seeing his colleagues so blatantly siding with his attacker, Chad was on the verge of tears. You're in for it now, Mike. You assaulted me. I'm telling Ms. Vance. Mike's voice was dangerously low. I should have hit you harder, you little parasite. Who the hell told you you could touch Leo's computer? Hearing that, the other engineers realized what must have happened and quickly asked for the full story. When Mike explained, a collective gasp went through the group. Everyone in the department knew the one unbreakable rule. No one, except Leo Sterling himself, was ever allowed to touch Leo's computer. You couldn't touch the keyboard, you couldn't touch the mouse. Hell, you couldn't even breathe on it. The penalty was a minimum fine of $10,000, with no upper limit. This bizarre rule existed for a very good reason, born from painful experience. A year ago, an intern whose own computer had crashed used Leo's station while he was away. He had accidentally changed a single data value in the source code. The data points in the code were the result of Leo's meticulous calculations. Even a change to the fifth decimal place could be catastrophic. At best, it would cause a minor glitch in the autonomous system. At worst, it could lead to a fatal accident. Luckily, Leo had a habit of reviewing his code and caught the anomaly in time. An investigation of the security footage revealed the intern was responsible. He was fired on the spot. Another time, an irate car owner had stormed into the office, trying to extort money by claiming the autonomous system was faulty. In reality, his car had a mechanical failure. The lug nuts on one of his wheels were loose, causing it to fly off. The man was unreasonable and demanded compensation. To show he meant business, he pulled out a baseball bat and started smashing computers. As if guided by fate, his first swing obliterated Leo's workstation. A later assessment concluded that the single swing had resulted in a loss of over $1 billion in research and development data. When a man heard that number, he collapsed on the floor. He was arrested and sent to prison, where he was probably still making license plates. Now, in the Apex Skunkworks Slack channel, a frantic storm of messages erupted, all tagging Leo, begging him to come back immediately. 4. Leo Sterling sat at his desk, his face a grim mask as he scanned line after line of code. Behind him, a row of anxious engineers stood in tense silence. After about 10 minutes, he finished his review. He stood up and turned to face Chad. "Who gave you permission to touch the code?" Chad, still not grasping the severity of the situation, shrugged dismissively. "I touched it, so what? What's the big deal? Besides, you already fixed it, didn't you? I'm new here. Isn't it normal for new guys to make a few mistakes?" he added, picking his nose with a smug look on his face. The other engineers seethed. They wanted nothing more than to kick him. The project deadline was already tight, and now Chad's stunt had delayed the final build and testing phase by 3 critical hours. What was even more infuriating was his complete lack of remorse. "Do you have any idea how many families you could have destroyed by changing one line of code, one single data point?" Leo's voice was low and menacing. "Do you know what kind of lawsuits that would bring down on this company?" At that, Leo lunged forward, grabbing Chad by the collar of his shirt. "Look in my eyes," he roared. "Tell me, you worthless hack." Chad was terrified, frozen in place, utterly speechless. "Let me be perfectly clear," Leo said, his voice dropping to a cold, hard whisper. "With your skill level and your moral compass, you're completely unfit for a core position in this department. When your probationary period is over, I will not be signing off on your transfer to full-time. You can go crawl back to whatever rock you came from." With a final shove, Leo pushed him away. He sat back down at his desk and began directing the team to start the final build and testing, determined to make up for lost time. A humiliated Chad scurried out of the room and went straight to Roxanne's office. He recounted the incident with a heavy dose of exaggeration and self-pity, his eyes welling up with crocodile tears. "Ms. Vance, he may have called me a worthless hack, but he was really insulting you. If you don't stand up for me, I'm quitting. And then, you'll never see my handsome face again." Roxanne's heart went out to him. She took his hand and made a solemn promise. "If I can't even handle one little engineer like Leo Sterling, then my time at MIT was a complete waste. The very first lesson they teach you in the Sloan MBA program is how to crush people. Just watch me, baby." Roxanne marched down to the finance department and confronted the CFO. Her demand was simple. It was payday, and she wanted the finance department to cut Leo's base salary and completely halt his sales commission payout. The CFO didn't dare do such a thing without approval and try to contact the CEO. Roxanne cut him off, fabricating a threat out of thin air. "Let me be frank with you, Director Chun. The company is about to go through a round of layoffs. This is coming straight from the chairman. I have a list of names right here. If you want to keep your cushy job, you'll do as I say. Otherwise, don't blame me for what happens next. A company with benefits this good is hard to find these days, you know." The threat worked. The CFO panicked. 5. At 3 p.m., the official payday, a chorus of text message notifications echoed through the engineering department. Colleagues cheerfully shared the news of their direct deposits hitting their accounts. "Leo, hey, my salary went up. It's up by over 10 grand. Mike Sullivan exclaimed, rushing over to share his excitement. Leo smiled. "I mentioned to the chairman last month that you were doing great work. This must be his way of showing his appreciation." Mike was genuinely moved. "Leo, man, the day I decided to follow you was the single greatest decision I've made in my 20-odd years on this planet. I knew I wasn't wrong about you. You're a true friend." He gave Leo a tight hug, then asked curiously, "So what's your paycheck look like? Mind if I take a look?" "It's the same as always," Leo said. Mike grinned. "Come on, let me see. I want to take a picture and flex on social media." Leo shrugged, pulled out his phone, and opened the text from his bank, holding it up for Mike to see. Apex Drive Inc. has initiated a transfer of $20,000 to your account, ending in 9888 on July 29th at 3:00 p.m. Current balance, $8, $989, $857, $895, $68. Holy, an $8.9 billion balance. Mike's eyes widened. Wait a minute. Leo, why did you only get paid $20,000? That's less than me. Something's not right. Leo paused, then looked closely at the message. Sure enough, it was only $20,000. His expression darkened. He knew instantly who was behind this. As if on cue, Roxanne appeared, a smug, knowing smirk on her face. She was clearly enjoying this. Leo ignored her, treating her like she was invisible. He made a quick call and summoned the CFO to the department. Director Chun, why is my salary only $20,000? I need an explanation. The CFO was sweating bullets, his voice trembling. Director Sterling, it was Ms. Vance's order. She made me do it. It has nothing to do with me. Leo said nothing, just lit a cigarette and smoked in silence. After he'd finished a third, Roxanne, unable to contain herself any longer, stepped forward. Leo, I noticed your base salary was exorbitantly high, so I made some adjustments, she announced proudly. And that sales commission was completely unreasonable, so I cut that too. From now on, you'll be paid an hourly wage, just like a regular employee. Don't take it personally. As the new person in charge, I have a duty to the chairman to make sure no one is getting a free ride. Leo didn't argue. He just smiled faintly. He stood up, pulled the employee ID badge from around his neck, and slapped it down on the desk. Fine. I quit. Roxanne almost fainted from joy. She had only meant to humiliate him with a pay cut. She never imagined he would just self-destruct. The other engineers, however, were horrified. Leo, you can't leave. Don't say things you don't mean, man. If you go, what happens to the company? What about the project? What do you mean, what happens? Roxanne snapped, glaring at the engineers. You think the company can't function without him? To prevent any chance of him changing his mind, she quickly sealed the deal. Chad, go get the head of HR right now. On it. A few minutes later, the HR director arrived. On the spot, Leo completed his exit paperwork and handed over his responsibilities. Once everything was finalized, Leo walked away without a backward glance. Roxanne, savoring her victory, called out to his retreating back. What's so great about you, Leo Sterling? This company will do just fine without you. Don't be so arrogant. Leo stopped and slowly turned his head, his eyes filled with contempt. Without me? Go ahead. Give it a try. Roxanne just snorted. Challenge accepted. After Leo left, she and Chad popped a bottle of champagne in her office to celebrate. But then, a flicker of doubt crossed her mind as she remembered Victor Vance's final warning. What if the old man finds out I'm the one who forced Leo out? She asked, a hint of worry in her voice. He specifically told me not to provoke him. Chad waved her concerns away. Don't worry, babe. He quit on his own. It has nothing to do with you. Hearing that, Roxanne decided he was right. 6. A few days later, the latest version of the Prometheus system, Build 4. 444 completed its final testing and was rolled out to the various automakers. The automakers, in turn, made the update available to their customers. What followed was a catastrophe. Every single vehicle that updated to version 4. 444 and engaged the autonomous driving mode crashed. Within half a day, there were over 20 accidents. The story exploded, quickly becoming the top national headline. The automakers, realizing something was terribly wrong, immediately pulled the 444 update and sent out urgent safety warnings to users who had already downloaded it. They then contacted Apex Drive, demanding an explanation. Roxanne, completely oblivious to the gravity of the situation, responded with breathtaking arrogance. You received the 444 software package and released it to your customers without doing your own testing? That's hilarious. The responsibility is clearly on you. The automakers were enraged. This was how Apex handled a crisis? The ones with the deepest pockets didn't even argue. They just had their lawyers file lawsuits. Apex Drive's corporate accounts were frozen. The court summons piled up so high they could have been used as furniture. Federal agents started showing up at the office, hundreds of them, from jurisdictions all over the country. Now, finally, Roxanne started to panic. She ordered the engineering department to find the cause of the problem. After an intense investigation by the deputy directors and senior engineers, the issue was located. There was a fundamental logic error in the source code. It was a major catastrophic bug, and it wasn't the only one. The investigation traced the faulty lines of code to a module that Chad had been responsible for. Furthermore, he had been the one to sign off on the final build test. Roxanne's handling of the situation was bizarre. She issued a symbolic fine to Chad for $1,000. Then, she fired several employees from the Quality Assurance Department, citing dereliction of duty. This was a blatant miscarriage of justice, and the remaining employees were furious. The federal agents weren't buying it either. This situation is far too serious for a few firings and a slap on the wrist, one of the lead agents told Roxanne sternly. There will be criminal liability here. The feds had their own tech experts, and it didn't take them long to identify Chad as the one responsible for the faulty code. They were ready to put him in handcuffs. Chad completely fell apart. He was so terrified he couldn't even stand, collapsing into a quivering heap. A foul stench filled the air as his body betrayed him, a mess of colorful fear leaking down his pant leg. Roxanne, now truly desperate, resorted to a last-ditch effort. She tried to frame Leo. She claimed it was all part of Leo's master plan, that he had intentionally set a trap for Chad to fall into. She even suggested that Leo had a secret backdoor into the company's development software, allowing him to remotely alter the code Chad had written. The federal agents listened to her accusations, then asked who Leo Sterling was. When they learned that, prior to his resignation, he had held multiple critical positions, outranked Roxanne, and had a history of conflict with both her and Chad, they took the claim seriously. They requested that the Bayview City Police Department bring Leo in for questioning. The police chief was surprisingly polite on the phone. Mr. Sterling, normally we wouldn't bring you in without sufficient evidence, but this case has massive implications. We apologize for the inconvenience. After hearing the details, Leo was fully cooperative. It's every citizen's duty to assist in an investigation, he said. Leo went to the Apex Drive offices and worked with the federal technical experts to clear his name. He walked them through the source code of the internal development software, line by line, explaining its architecture and proving its integrity. After 3 days and nights of intense review, the verdict was in. There was no backdoor. Leo Sterling was innocent. His former colleagues also provided statements, confirming that he had properly handed off all his responsibilities before he left. The disaster had nothing to do with him. The sole culprit was Chad Miller. After that, things moved quickly. Chad was taken into federal custody that morning. By noon, he was facing a battery of charges, including corporate sabotage, reckless endangerment, and multiple counts of involuntary manslaughter. The feds made it clear he would spend the rest of his life in a supermax prison. That evening, the Department of Justice issued a press release. Roxanne didn't escape unscathed. Leo sued her for defamation and won. The court ordered her to pay him $5 million in damages. Coincidentally, the exact amount she had managed to grift from Victor Vance over the years. All her hard-earned money was gone in an instant. She was broke. After paying the settlement, Roxanne cried until she was dehydrated. She thought that was the end of it. Her money was gone and her lover was imprisoned for life, but at least she was still the VP. But the storm had not yet passed. Another disaster was about to strike the company. 7. The next morning, as Roxanne walked into the office, the Deputy Director of Information Security ran up to her, his face pale with panic. Ms. Vance, it's an emergency. The company's servers are under attack. The firewall is about to collapse. Roxanne didn't understand the technical jargon. Is this serious? If not, it can wait until after I've had my breakfast. The security director stared at her, dumbfounded. By the time you finish your damn breakfast, we won't have a company left. After cursing her out 1,000 times in his head, he tried to explain the stakes. He spoke at length, but Roxanne understood almost nothing until he said the 3 magic words. We'll go bankrupt. That got her attention. She immediately summoned all the senior engineers to mount a defense. It was useless. The defensive measures they scrambled to put in place were like a paper wall against a hurricane. The attackers tore through them with ease. Within minutes, they had breached the server firewall. All the engineers could do was watch in horror as the intruders began siphoning away the company's most valuable secrets, piece by piece. What's the status? Roxanne demanded, unable to comprehend the lines of code scrolling across the monitors. It's over. They've already stolen 83.7% of our core data, the security director replied, his voice heavy with defeat. The only way to stop them now is to cut the power. Then cut the power. Now, Roxanne shrieked. But if we do an emergency shutdown without a backup, all the data on the servers will be permanently lost. Roxanne was losing it. This won't work. That won't work. What are we supposed to do? She screamed. What do I pay you people for? Why can't you stop these hackers? Are you all just slacking off because I'm a woman? These aren't just any hackers, one of the engineers explained, his voice trembling. They're the Wolverines. They're one of the top 10 black hat groups in the world. The Wolverines have breached CIA servers before. We're nothing to them. We can't stop them. Roxanne covered her ears. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it, she yelled. Just answer me this. Why was everything fine before? Why is this happening just a few days after I took over? The deputy director of information security stood tall and answered with grim certainty. Because before, we had Leo. Roxanne rolled her eyes. So what you're saying is, without Leo Sterling, this company can't function? Every engineer in the room nodded in unison. Yes. Yes, what yes? Roxanne slammed her hand on a console, rattling the monitors. Hasn't it occurred to any of you? Why can't you handle this? Why can't you stop the Wolverines? The engineers looked at each other, then replied in a single, unified voice, because we're not Leo Sterling. Roxanne felt her world crumble. After a few minutes of stunned silence, she realized she had no other choice. Swallowing her pride, she pulled out her phone and dialed Leo's number. Ring, ring, ring. The call connected. Hello, Leo asked, not recognizing the number. Roxanne's voice was haughty and condescending. This is Roxanne Vance, Vice President of Apex Drive Inc. Click. Leo hung up and immediately blocked her number. Roxanne, oblivious, continued her monologue into the dead air. Leo, I need your help with something. Don't worry, I'm not asking for a favor. I'm prepared to offer you $300 a day. That's a very generous offer. Did you know that the majority of Americans earn less than $50,000 a year? Why aren't you saying anything? Hello? Did he hang up? 8. For the first time in years, Leo Sterling was living a life of leisure. Mornings were for running and working out. Late mornings were for reading scientific journals, studying the latest research, tinkering with code, and building servers for new pet projects. Afternoons were for cooking, eating, and playing some video games before diving back into his research. Evenings were for more research. After a couple of weeks, he started to get restless. He missed work. It wasn't that he loved the daily grind. What he loved was the feeling of stealing moments of freedom from a busy schedule. That thrill of playing hooky for an afternoon. A life of constant leisure just wasn't the same. He started browsing LinkedIn, looking for a company that might be a good fit. After several days of searching, one company caught his eye. Its name was Odyssey Aeronautics. Their primary business was commercial drones. They were a small fry compared to a giant like Apex, with only about 100 employees and a few billion in registered capital. But what intrigued him was a single line in their job posting. We are developing a mysterious and powerful new venture. We welcome innovators of all backgrounds to join us in building a legendary future. A mysterious and powerful venture. Huh? Interesting, Leo mused. He decided to go for an interview. During the technical assessment, Leo demonstrated a coding ability that was almost supernatural. In just 5 minutes, he not only completed the complex project they assigned, but also added a dozen extra features they hadn't even asked for. The HR manager was floored. He knew he had stumbled upon a unicorn and immediately called the CEO. The CEO's name was Al Russo. He was a big, boisterous guy from New Jersey with a larger-than-life personality and a natural gift for comedy. When Al saw the code Leo had written, he nearly fell to his knees. He grabbed Leo's hand, his voice trembling with excitement. Mister, you are the one-in-a-million genius I've been looking for. Congratulations, you're hired. Welcome to Odyssey Aeronautics. Leo held up a hand. Not so fast, he said. You just interviewed me. Now it's my turn to interview you. Al blinked, then quickly sat down, straightening his posture like a schoolboy being called to the principal's office. Leo's expression was serious. That line in your job posting, the mysterious and powerful venture. What is it? I'm curious. Al's face turned red. He wrung his hands, looking embarrassed. To be honest with you, I just made that up. Thought it sounded cool, you know? Put a little pizzazz in the company profile. Hit. Sorry about that. Leo stared at him, speechless. Is this guy a complete clown? Still, he was already here. Might as well see it through. Your main business is drones, Leo said patiently. But the market is dominated by DJI. From what I can tell, your market share is shrinking every year. If you don't pivot, you'll be obsolete soon. As the CEO, how do you plan to solve that problem? Al thought for a moment, then answered with complete sincerity. Well, I was thinking maybe I could sell the company to DJI before we go bankrupt. Might get a good price, right? Leo's face fell. Seeing Leo's dark expression, Al panicked. I don't know. That's the problem. I'm so stressed about it. I can't sleep at night. My hair's falling out by the handful. Leo slowly stood up, a look of disappointment on his face. It's a shame. You have no sense of urgency, no vision for the company's future. You are clearly not the boss I'm looking for. With a loud clatter, Al dropped his knees. He grabbed on Leo's pant leg, his voice cracking with desperation. Please don't go. I'll give you anything. Half the company. Hell, you can have my wife. Just please stay. I'll do whatever you say. Leo was taken aback by his raw sincerity. He slowly sat back down, deciding to give him one last chance. Flying cars, Leo said. Are you interested? Al's face was a picture of disbelief. Flying cars? Isn't that like a huge leap? You think we can actually pull that off? Leo's confidence was absolute. I don't know about anyone else, but I know that I can. He opened the laptop he'd brought with him and showed Al a series of stunningly futuristic design schematics for a flying car. The blueprints were incredibly detailed, covering everything from the aerodynamic chassis and interior mechanics to the composite materials required for construction. After looking through the designs, Al took a deep breath and slapped his hands on his thighs. He made his decision. The company was already circling the drain. Why not go for broke? Buddy, you don't have to say another word. I'm with you all the way, he declared. If we succeed, we're legends. If we fail, at least Al Russo went down swinging. Holy crap, just thinking about it gives me goosebumps. If we can mass-produce a flying car, we'll go down in history, won't we? So, he asked, a nervous tremor in his voice. How much is this going to cost? Leo thought for a moment. I haven't run the exact numbers, but I don't think the initial cost will be too high. Probably no more than 50 billion. The casual mention of 50 billion almost made Al burst into tears. You really have a high opinion of me, don't you? But seeing the look of earnest anticipation in Leo's eyes, Al slapped his chest and made a promise. Don't you worry about a thing. The money is not a problem. I'll handle it. 9. Over the next few days, Al Russo was a whirlwind of activity, scrambling to raise the capital. He had built up a vast network of contacts over the years and knew many of the big players in Bayview City. He organized a high-stakes dinner, planning to use his silver tongue to convince them of the future of flying cars and get them to invest. With enough partners, what was 50 billion? A little from you, a little from him, and they'd be there in no time. But reality was a harsh mistress. When his wealthy acquaintances heard that the mysterious and powerful venture was flying cars, they practically ran for the exits. On their way out, they even helped themselves to the expensive bottles of wine Al had brought. These titans of industry weren't fools. They all agreed on one thing. Flying cars were a product of the next century. With current technology, mass production was impossible. Defeated, Al went to the banks. After assessing his assets, they agreed to loan him a mere $500 million. That wasn't even enough to build a regular car, let alone a flying one. As a last resort, Al went to see one of Bayview's most formidable figures, a man they called Vinny 3-Day Gallo. Vinny was a loan shark with deep, complex ties to both the city's criminal underworld and its corridors of power. His business was high-interest, short-term loans. He had a rule. Anyone who wanted to borrow money had to chug a bottle of hard liquor in front of him without passing out. Only then would he talk business. If a client missed a payment deadline, he gave them 3 days to find the cash. If the money didn't appear, they lost a hand or a foot. That was how he'd earned his nickname. Al arrived at Vinny's office with a gift in hand. On the desk sat an ornate bottle of what looked like expensive liquor. Vinny, I know the rules. Down the hatch, Al declared, grabbing the bottle and chugging it without hesitation. Glug, glug, glug. A true Jersey native, he finished the entire bottle in seconds, letting out a satisfied burp. He smacked his lips, seemingly wanting more. Hey, Vinny, this stuff is pretty good. Different from what you had last time. Business must be booming if you're upgrading the initiation ritual. Huh. Vinny's face was twitching, a look of pure pain in his eyes. That bottle was worth $1.8 million, you moron, and you just chugged it. You drank the wrong one. This bottle of cheap whiskey was the ritual. Vinny pulled a bottle of bottom-shelf rotgut from a cabinet and slammed it on the table. Al's jaw dropped. You're paying for that, Vinny growled. Hey, it's just a bottle of booze. I'll pay you back tenfold later. Right now, I need you to help your little brother out, Al said, waving his hand dismissively. Vinny's eyes narrowed. What? The company's in trouble again. How much you need this time? Al silently held up 5 fingers. Vinny looked annoyed. 50 million or 500 million. Spit it out, will you? I ain't a mind reader. Al shook his head. Not 50 million and not 500 million. Don't tell me it's 5 million. Hith. Vinny sneered. Wow, Al, you've really fallen on hard times if you're here for 5 mil. What do you need it for? Al looked him straight in the eye. 50 billion. Crash. Vinny fell right out of his chair. He scrambled back up, his eyes wide with disbelief. Are you out of your freaking mind? Who do you think I am, Jeff Bezos? 50 billion? You got some nerve, pal. Al squared his jaw. Then I'll sign the company over to you as collateral. Vinny rolled his eyes. What the hell am I going to do with a drone company? I'm a loan shark. Knowing it was a lost cause, Al decided to throw a Hail Mary. He pleaded with Vinny, passionately explaining the flying car project. Vinny listened, a strange look on his face. You know, you got bigger balls than I do. I'll give you that. Perhaps it was AL's genuine passion that moved him. Or perhaps Vinny himself wanted to see a flying car in his lifetime. Whatever the reason, he finally let Al in on a secret. Look, I don't have 50 billion. And even if I did, I wouldn't lend it to you. But I know a very important person who just came to town. 50 billion, 500 billion. To him, it's just pocket change. AL's eyes lit up. He immediately asked for the man's name. Vinny scratched his head. I don't know his real name, but I hear his last name is Ash. A guy named Ash. You get what that means, right? Al stroked his chin thoughtfully. You mean like Ash Ketchum? Vinny looked like he was about to have an aneurysm. Get the hell out of here. You watch too many cartoons? What's next? His name is Ash Williams. Al fell silent. Look, forget his first name. All I know is this mister. Ash is going to be playing at the Bayview Hills Golf Club sometime in the next few days. That's all I got. Al memorized this crucial piece of information and rushed back to strategize with Leo. 10. That evening, Al and Leo met at a private table in a high-end steakhouse. After hearing AL's story about the mysterious Mr. Ash, Leo just smiled. Leave it to me. I've got this. He pulled out his laptop and, in less than 2 minutes, bypassed the golf club security and accessed their internal reservation system. He found a guest list for the next few days. After a quick search, he identified 3 guests with the last name Ash. 2 were out-of-state businessmen with fully documented profiles. The third Mr. Ash, however, was an anomaly. His reservation simply read, Mr. Ash. There was no other identifying information. They had found their man. He's scheduled to play tomorrow at 3 p.m., Leo said. But he's booked the entire inner course, which means it will be closed to the public. How are we going to get to him? I'll grin slyly. That's easy. I'll arrange a little accidental meeting. Accidental? What do you mean? Leo asked, confused. I'll just chuckled. Leo, my friend, when it comes to computers, you're the master, he said, holding up a thumb. And I'm a nobody, he added, holding up his pinky. But when it comes to people, business, the art of the hustle, you're not in my league. Al Russo started this life shoveling crap. You think a guy like me got where he is by being ordinary? Just watch and learn. Hearing him talk so big, Leo couldn't help but feel a surge of anticipation. The next afternoon at 3 p.m., on the path connecting the outer and inner courses of the Bayview Hills Golf Club, Leo watched with bated breath. He saw Al Russo behind the wheel of a golf cart, the accelerator pushed to the floor, hurtling directly toward Mr. Ash's cart. Crash! The 2 carts collided in a tangle of metal and plastic. Both vehicles overturned, spilling their occupants onto the perfectly manicured lawn. Leo was speechless. This was his brilliant plan for an accidental meeting? But he had to admit, as crude as it was incredibly effective. Al scrambled to his feet and rushed over to Mr. Ash's overturned cart, helping the shaken billionaire up while apologizing profusely. I'm so sorry. So sorry. The accelerator on my cart got stuck? Sir, please don't worry. I'll cover all the damages. I'll take full responsibility. Mr. Ash surprisingly wasn't angry. He brushed himself off, waved his hand dismissively, and prepared to leave with his entourage. But Al wouldn't let it go. He insisted on compensating Mr. Ash, claiming he wouldn't be able to sleep at night otherwise. Amused by AL's persistence, Mr. Ash gestured to one of his assistants, who handed Al a business card. That single business card was the key that would unlock the kingdom. The next day, Al called the number on the card. He didn't get through to Mr. Ash, of course, but to his aide. Using the pretext of wanting to personally deliver cash compensation, Al managed to arrange a meeting with the aide. After that, it was all part of AL's master plan. He treated the aide to an expensive spa day, followed by a lavish dinner. The gift was a debit card loaded with $500,000. The aide, true to his word, found a way to casually bring up the flying car concept during a conversation with Mr. Ash. He then showed him the design schematics Leo had created. A few days later, Al and Leo were drowning their sorrows at a dive bar. It had been nearly a week with no word back. They were starting to lose hope. Al slammed back a shot of whiskey and cursed. Son of a bitch. I knew it. That guy was a goddamn scammer. Took the money and ran. Damn it, $500,000 down the drain. Let's give it a few more days, Leo said, trying to sound optimistic. If we don't hear anything, I have some. Just then, AL's phone rang. It was an encrypted call with no caller ID. Yeah, who is this? Al barked into the phone, assuming it was a spam call. Look, I'm broke, and I'm not interested in your car's extended warranty. A calm, powerful voice on the other end said, I'm in on a flying car project. Al froze. The voice continued, the $50 billion will be wired to your company's account tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Boom. Al's breath hitched, his eyes wide with shock. He trembled for what felt like an eternity before he could manage a complete sentence. Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Ash. I do have one question for you, if you don't mind, Mr. Ash said. Al sat up straight, his voice now filled with humility. Of course, Mr. Ash. Ask anything. That day at the golf course, you crashed into me on purpose, didn't you? Al's face went pale. 11. The next morning at 9 a.m. sharp, $50 billion appeared in the company's bank account. With the funding secured, everything else fell into place. First, Leo Sterling officially signed an employment and equity agreement with Odyssey Aeronautics. The contract stipulated Leo's fixed salary would be $2 million per month. Al Russo would transfer 19% of his founder's equity to Leo. Mr. Ash had taken a 30% stake, leaving Al with 51%. Leo would hold absolute patent rights for the flying car technology. If the project failed, Al and the company would solely bear the losses, with no liability for Leo. Al had drafted all 4 clauses himself. He was a man of his word and felt he owed Leo this and more, especially after learning he was the genius who had walked away from Apex. Leo, however, was deeply moved and tried to amend the terms. He proposed changes to the first and third clauses. Until the project was successful, Leo would not take any salary. Leo would transfer the patent rights for the flying car to the company free of charge. But Al absolutely refused. If you consider me your friend, you'll sign it as is. Without being so insistent, Leo had no choice but to accept. After joining the company, Leo's official titles were Vice President, Director of Engineering, Head of the Flying Car Project, Chief Architect, Lead Programmer, Lead Front-End Developer, Lead Back-End Developer, Chief Hardware Engineer, Chief Chassis Engineer, Chief High-Performance Motor Engineer, Chief Special Battery Materials Engineer, and Head of the Flight Control System. His job classification was NB-15, on par with Al, the CEO. Of course, even a genius like Leo couldn't build a flying car by himself. He was the visionary, but he couldn't do everything. The company's newly established apartments were filled with brand new desks and chairs, but they were all empty. So, Leo reached out to his old team at Apex Drive. He sent them a single message. Come join me now and you'll be founding members. Minimum starting salary of $500,000, negotiable. I swear on my professional reputation, this flying car will succeed. His call to arms was met with a resounding response. His former team of several hundred engineers all agreed to jump ship. Every single one of them. The reason was simple. They had reached their breaking point with Roxanne's tyrannical reign. For example, being 1 minute late for work resulted in a $100 fine, and it was $100 per minute with no cap. One engineer had overslept and was several hours late, ending up with a fine of over $20,000. He not only lost his entire month's salary, but actually owed the company money. Another rule, every employee was required to log 8 hours of overtime per day. That meant an 18-hour workday. Failure to meet the quota resulted in a pay cut and a negative performance review, and you couldn't make up the hours later. But the most insane rule was this. If you encountered Roxanne in the hallway, you were required to greet her with a cheerful "Hello, Ms. Vance," in English with a perfect British accent. If your pronunciation was off, you were fined. It was madness. The HR department at Apex Drive was suddenly very busy. A flood of resignation letters poured in, each one more creative and sarcastic than the last. Reason for resignation. The world is a big place, and I'd like to see it. Reason for resignation. My feet are too big to fit into the tiny shoes I'm being forced to wear. Reason for resignation. My stomach is too small to digest the giant sandwiches of lies I'm being fed. Reason for resignation. My head is too small for all the hats of blame being thrown on it. Reason for resignation. This temple is too small for a deity of my stature. It was clear they all wanted to give Roxanne one last middle finger on their way out. And it worked. She was furious. She decided to take her anger out on the few remaining employees in the department, posting an announcement in the company-wide chat. Roxanne Vance, VP at everyone this year, for the 4th of July holiday weekend, the engineering department will not be taking time off. I will be here in the office, working alongside you. Please reply to confirm you have received this message. But instead of confirmations, she received a barrage of pointed questions. Mike Sullivan, why? Does your family not have a grill, Ms. Vance? Roxanne Vance, VP 60-second voice message of pure rage. Roxanne Vance, VP, you're fired. Don't bother coming in tomorrow. Mike Sullivan, I was just offering to lend you one if you didn't. Mike Sullivan, no good deed goes unpunished. Roxanne Vance, VP, another 60-second voice message. Frank, Hammer, Kowalski, everyone calm down. This can be resolved. At Mike_Sullivan, you shouldn't pick on people who don't have grills. Roxanne Vance, VP at Frank_Kowalski, you're fired too. Get out. Mike Sullivan, you got it. Frank, Hammer, Kowalski, a double win. They were ecstatic. A generous severance package was now guaranteed. Over the next few days, Leo's old team officially joined Odyssey Aeronautics. With the core personnel in place, things started moving at lightning speed. Their expertise in autonomous visual systems translated perfectly to the development of the flight control and self-piloting systems. The hardware, high-performance electric motors, propeller blades, chassis, and battery systems, was all handled directly by Leo. He quickly recruited a team of top-tier talent in those fields, offering them salaries they couldn't refuse, and they immediately dove into research and development. As for the original Odyssey Aeronautics employees, Leo didn't cast them aside. He put their skills to good use, providing them with advanced training and assigning them to suitable roles within the new, expanded structure. For a time, Odyssey Aeronautics was a hive of activity. Everyone had a role, and the work was progressing at a feverish pace. Everything was heading in the right direction. 12. A month later, Victor Vance, the CEO of Apex Driving, returned. As soon as he landed, he called Roxanne, planning to have her pick him up and take him to the office. The call went to voicemail. He figured she was busy and didn't think much of it. He hailed an Uber and headed to the company headquarters. As the car pulled up, he saw that the main entrance was plastered with protest signs. The walls were splattered with paint. The glass doors were covered with official-looking seals. The massive Apex Driving sign on top of the building had been dismantled. Victor was stunned. He rubbed his eyes, convinced he was in the wrong place. Driver, where the hell did you take me? The Uber driver glanced at the building and answered with certainty. This is Apex Drive. What? Are you here to collect a debt too? Victor shot him a dirty look. What debt? He caught himself and changed his tone. Wait, collect a debt. What happened to this company? The driver looked surprised. You haven't heard? Must be from out of town. Apex is finished. The driver then recounted everything he'd seen and heard about Apex over the past month. A month ago, a new VP had caused the entire engineering department to quit en masse. Shortly after, the company's servers were hacked, and without anyone capable of stopping the breach, a virus was deployed to all vehicles using their autonomous driving system. The system became unusable, leading to widespread accidents. Automakers and car owners alike had descended on the company, demanding answers and compensation. The situation had escalated until the government stepped in, ordering Apex to pay damages. But by then, the new VP had already cleaned out the company's accounts and vanished. After hearing the driver's story, Victor felt a cold chill run down his spine. He got out of the car and immediately tried calling Roxanne, ready to unleash his fury. After several attempts, the calls still went to voicemail. When he tried again, a message informed him he had been blocked. Enraged, Victor first filed a police report, then leveraged every connection he had built over the years to track Roxanne down. It only took a few days for the police to find her. A long prison sentence awaited her. After ensuring Roxanne was behind bars, Victor began the arduous task of cleaning up the mess at Apex. It cost him nearly $300 billion to settle all the lawsuits and claims. But he didn't care about the money. In his mind, the financial loss was irrelevant. As long as he could get Leo Sterling back, he could rebuild and rise again. However, when he learned that Leo had already joined a new company, Victor felt his world collapse. He didn't give up. He started camping out in front of the Odyssey Aeronautics building, waiting for a chance to talk to Leo. Finally, one evening during a torrential downpour, his persistence paid off. He saw Leo walking out of the building. Leo, I've sinned. Please forgive me. Come back to me. Victor executed a perfect slide tackle on the wet pavement, landing on his knees in front of Leo. He began bowing his head repeatedly, his forehead hitting the ground with a dull thud. Al Russo, who was with Leo, quickly went to help the older man up. Whoa, buddy, if you feel guilty, you should go to the police station. Bowing to Leo here ain't gonna do you any good. He's not a cop. Come on now, be a good boy and go turn yourself in. You can't escape the long arm of the law, Al said, his tone perfectly mimicking a cheesy TV detective. Victor, momentarily stunned by Al's stand-up routine, looked up and saw a stranger. "Who the hell are you?" he snapped. Al puffed out his chest. "The name's Al Russo. I'm Leo Sterling's boss." "Badass, huh?" That did it. Victor's anger erupted. It was one thing to introduce himself, but to emphasize that he was Leo's boss, and then add that obnoxious "badass, huh?" at the end. "You son of a bitch. You poach my guy? I'll kill you," Victor roared, lunging at Al. The two men began to brawl, rolling around on the wet pavement in the pouring rain. Worried they might actually hurt each other, Leo tried to intervene. "Stop it. You guys stop fighting." But the sound of the rain drowned out his voice. He had no choice but to try and physically pull them apart. Just then, a news reporter happened to be passing by. She recognized Victor Vance and Al Russo immediately. And when she saw a handsome young man standing between them, her journalistic instincts kicked in, and she constructed a narrative on the spot. She turned to her cameraman and began her live report. "Good evening. This is Bayview City News at 6. Right behind me, in a shocking display, two of our city's most prominent entrepreneurs are engaged in a public brawl, seemingly over the affections of a younger man. A truly scandalous scene." Hearing this, the two CEOs, their faces beet red with embarrassment, scrambled to their feet. They moved to a more private spot. "Give Leo back," Victor demanded. I was unfazed. "Give him back? Are you kidding me? I recruited him fair and square. Go ahead, sue me. See if the court gives a damn." Victor knew he had no legal ground to stand on, so he turned to Leo, his voice pleading. "Leo, I know everything that happened, all the wrongs you suffered. That woman, Roxanne, she's in jail now. Please come back. We can make Apex great again." Leo sighed softly and gently refused. "Victor, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not interested in autonomous driving anymore. It's too small-minded." "Then what do you want to do?" "I'll back you in anything." Al, with a smug look, interjected, "Flying cars. Badass, huh?" Victor's eyes widened. He didn't doubt for a second that if anyone could make flying cars a reality, it was Leo Sterling. With decades of business experience, he instantly recognized the colossal market potential. The next second, Victor was on his knees in front of both of them, clutching one of Leo's pant legs and one of Al's. "Let me in on it. Let me invest. How much do you need? I'll give it to you. I'll give you everything." Al, naturally, was having none of it. He wasn't about to let Victor waltz in and reap the rewards. "We don't need anything. Not money, not people. Get lost." Leo, on the other hand, looked at Victor with a complicated expression. "Victor, some things, once broken, can't be fixed. What's done is done. I know you're a good man, and I'm sorry for how things ended. But we can't force this. It's over." With that, Leo turned and walked away, a sense of finality in his steps. Victor watched Leo's tall, imposing figure recede into the distance, his eyes welling up with tears. He didn't chase after him or cause a scene. He just stood there silently in the rain, watching him go. He now understood that the most painful goodbyes are never the loud, dramatic ones. They are the ones shrouded in deafening silence. 13. 6 months later, the development of the flying car at Odyssey Aeronautics had hit a major roadblock. The problem was the power source. They couldn't achieve the required energy density with existing battery materials, which meant the vehicle's range was unacceptably low. Even a genius like Leo was stumped. The problem of battery energy density had plagued scientists for decades. To make matters worse, the initial $50 billion in funding had been completely exhausted. There was no more money to continue the project. The final nail in the coffin came when Mr. Ash, losing faith in the venture, suspended all future funding. The company had entered its darkest hour. Al Russo was so stressed his hair was turning white. He begged everyone he knew for a loan, even getting on his knees, but no one would help. One day Leo found him. "I've solved the battery problem," he said simply. "Give me another $30 billion, and I'll give you an empire." Al looked up, his face a mask of despair. "Buddy, I can't borrow another dime. Where am I going to get $30 billion? Leo stroked his chin deep in thought. "What if we ask Victor Vance?" Al's eyes lit up as if struck by lightning. He slapped his thigh. "Of course. How could I have forgotten about that guy?" In a lavish private karaoke room, Victor Vance was hugging a bottle of expensive whiskey, lost in a drunken stupor. Every so often, he would grab the microphone and belt out a mournful rendition of All by Myself. Ever since that rainy evening when he and Leo had their breakup, Victor had been in a downward spiral, devoid of motivation and ambition. The only thing that brought a flicker of emotion to his desolate life was the cold, hard number in his bank account. $100 billion. Otherwise, he had completely lost his will to live. Just then his phone rang. The caller ID read, Leo Sterling. Victor shot up from the couch, as if electrocuted. His face was a whirlwind of emotions. One part disbelief, one part shock, one part elation, and a final part of pure, tearful joy. He answered the call with lightning speed. Leo, has your company gone bankrupt? That's wonderful. Come back to me. We'll rebuild the empire, bigger and better than before. Victor, Leo's voice was hesitant. I need to borrow some money. How much? Not much. 30 billion. Victor stumbled backward, nearly falling over. 30 billion isn't the problem. But what do you need it for? Leo explained briefly. My current company has run out of R&D funds, but we've just had a major breakthrough. With more capital, the project will succeed. Victor understood immediately. Oh, so that's how it is, he said, a slow, wicked grin spreading across his face. Before, I was begging to join you, begging to invest, and you turned me down. And now, he let out a series of triumphant whoops and hollers. This feels good. So damn good. Come to my private room. We'll talk in person. A short while later, Leo and Al arrived at the karaoke bar. On a large table in the center of the room, a massive pyramid of champagne flutes was stacked at least 100 glasses high, all filled to the brim. At the base of the pyramid, tucked under the bottom row of glasses, was a loan agreement. Victor, puffing on a cigar, looked every bit the cartoon villain. Haha, drink all 108 of these glasses, and the money is yours. Leo frowned. Then, I'm not interested. He turned to leave without another word. Victor's jaw dropped. The next second, he executed another perfect slide tackle, blocking Leo's path. Leo, I was just kidding. I was just trying to be dramatic. Leo, I'm begging you. Please, borrow money from me. Please. Al, watching from the side, was completely baffled. He scratched his head, a look of profound confusion on his face. What the hell is going on? Who is borrowing money from whom? He thought back to his own humiliating attempts to secure loans, where he had to grovel like a dog. And here was Leo, acting like the one doing the favor. The details of the loan were quickly settled. Victor's $30 billion would be an investment, securing him a 10% stake in the company. Al and Leo readily agreed. With the deal done, the three men began to drink and celebrate. As the night wore on, a drunk Victor threw his arm around Al's shoulder. You're a lucky son of a bitch, you know that, he slurred. You snatched up a genius like him. Al raised his glass, a wide grin on his face. Hit. Badass, huh? The end with Victor's $30 billion lifeline. The flying car project was back on track. 1 year later, the first mass-produced electric flying car rolled off the assembly line. Its name was the Aura. Testing revealed that the vehicle exceeded all its design specifications. It had a maximum flight altitude of 16,000 feet, a top speed of 300 miles per hour, and a range of 1,100 miles. It was equipped with a 5,000-volt ultra-high voltage charging system that, in an emergency, could land directly on high-voltage power lines to recharge, no charging station needed. Furthermore, it achieved full autonomous flight in all conditions, anytime, any place, any speed, any altitude. The moment the Aura was unveiled, the world went wild. Odyssey Aeronautics became a global phenomenon. Tesla, holy crap, how did a small company like that pull this off? Apple, well, look who is quietly building the next big thing. Intel. The Aura is using its own proprietary CPU, NVIDIA. Its AI chip is custom designed too. The titans of the tech world were all asking the same question. How did a previously unknown company like Odyssey single-handedly develop a flying car? From the batteries and motors to the complex microchips, how did they achieve complete vertical integration in their design and production? It was unheard of. A month later, the Aura was a massive commercial success. Despite a price tag of $2 million, orders surpassed 1 million units. The U.S. government began to heavily subsidize Odyssey Aeronautics, helping them expand production capacity and open up global markets. A year later, the Aura was being sold worldwide, though the international version was a slightly downgraded model. Not to be outdone, Tesla announced with great fanfare that they were developing a personal flight suit. Flying cars are nothing. A personal flight suit is the future. Tesla will make it possible for everyone to be Iron Man. See you in 1 year. That promise, everyone can be Iron Man, captured the public's imagination. The president praised Tesla as a savior of American innovation. The hype was so immense that sales of the Aura began to decline. Leo Sterling watched all this unfold. A humanoid battlesuit, huh? If that's how they want to play it, then the gloves are off. He locked himself in his lab and began a new round of research. A year later, Tesla unveiled its humanoid flight suit, which they had named Iron Man. However, its clumsy design, slow flight speed, and awkward transformation sequence left fans bitterly disappointed. It was, to put mildly, a piece of junk. Just then, a breaking news story hit the wire. Odyssey Aeronautics successfully develops humanoid mech suit. The machine they revealed was a masterpiece of engineering. Its sleek aerodynamic design and seamless, rapid transformation made it look like it had flown straight out of a movie. Odyssey Aeronautics was once again the king of the tech world. 10 years later, Leo Sterling mastered controllable nuclear fusion and miniaturized it. 20 years later, he discovered the secret to biological immortality. 50 years later, he developed a starship capable of warp travel. In the year 2100, Leo Sterling was awarded the title of mankind's greatest contributor. His name was written into every history book. My name is Leo Sterling. I am the best hacker in the world. Period. A few days ago, I piloted our planet ship, Earth, to the edge of the Milky Way galaxy. And there I saw the beginning of life itself. End of book.